My name is Emily Martinez and I've spent 31 years being the family misfit in a clan obsessed with image. The Martinez family wasn't wealthy, but we performed wealth with remarkable dedication. My father, Robert Martinez, managed a successful car dealership, not ownership management, which gave our family just enough financial stability to reach for the social circles above us. My mother, Catherine, made this reach her life's mission. Mom was a real estate agent who specialized in luxury properties she could never afford herself. She dressed impeccably, drove a leased Mercedes, and cultivated relationships with clients whose annual income exceeded her lifetime earnings. Her career was less about selling houses and more about proximity to wealth. My siblings understood the assignment perfectly. My older sister, Victoria, married a cardiovascular surgeon and lived in a sprawling suburban mansion with a pool she photographed constantly but rarely used. She drove a Range Rover, wore designer everything, and her 3 children attended private schools that cost more than most people's mortgages. My younger brother, Marcus, was a corporate attorney at a mid-sized firm. Not a partner, not particularly distinguished, but the title sounded impressive at dinner parties. He lived in a luxury high-rise, dated women who looked like Instagram models, and wore suits that cost more than my monthly rent used to. Then there was me. I'd always been different. While Victoria perfected her makeup techniques and Marcus networked at fraternity parties, I spent my teenage years coding in my bedroom. I built my first website at 13. By 16, I'd created 3 apps that actually worked, even if nobody downloaded them. Emily, you need to socialize more, Mom said constantly. Make the right friends. Join the right activities. How will you ever meet the right kind of people if you're always in front of that computer? I went to State University on a full scholarship while Victoria attended a prestigious private college that left my parents with loans they'd never fully paid off. I studied computer science. Mom told her friends I was exploring options because she couldn't explain what computer science actually was. After graduation, I turned down corporate job offers and joined a startup called Next Tech Systems. 4 employees, cramped office space above a coffee shop, and a vision to revolutionize cloud-based data analytics using artificial intelligence. My parents were horrified. A startup? Dad said when I told them. Emily, that's not a career. That's a gamble. The equity package is good, I replied. Equity isn't money, Mom interjected sharply. Victoria's husband makes $400,000 a year. That's money. What you're describing is a lottery ticket. Then let's see if I win. I didn't win. I built. For 7 years, I lived modestly while pouring everything into Next Tech. I worked 80-hour weeks. I learned not just coding but business operations, client relations, strategic planning. When our founder left to pursue another venture, I stepped up. At 28, I became CEO of a company most people still hadn't heard of. My family's disappointment calcified into permanent judgment. Family gatherings became showcases where Victoria displayed her mansion renovations and Marcus name-dropped partners at his firm, while I was the afterthought. The sister who still worked at that startup, who drove a Honda Civic, who rented a small apartment, who wore clothes from Target. Emily's doing her own thing, Mom would explain to relatives with a tight smile that conveyed both disappointment and embarrassment. The exclusions started subtly. Victoria's 40th birthday party was intimate family only, which included her husband's parents and siblings but somehow not me. Marcus's promotion celebration was held at a private club where the dress code mysteriously didn't accommodate my wardrobe. Mom's charity fundraiser had limited seating and my ticket request came in too late. I stopped expecting invitations. I simply confirmed I was busy whenever they asked, which was increasingly rare. What my family didn't know, what they'd never bothered to ask about, was that Next Tech Systems was exploding. While my family perfected their performance of success, I was building the real thing. Next Tech's AI-powered data analytics platform had caught fire in the enterprise market. We weren't just another software company, we were solving a critical problem. Major corporations were drowning in data but starving for insights. Our artificial intelligence could analyze massive datasets in real time and provide actionable business intelligence that traditional analytics tools couldn't match. Our client list read like the Fortune 500. We had contracts with telecommunications giants, financial institutions, healthcare conglomerates, and retail empires. Companies were paying us 6 and 7 figures annually for our platform. In year 5, We closed a Series B funding round at a $340 million valuation. By year 6 we hit $680 million. This year 7, we'd reached $1.8 billion. I owned 42% of the company as founder and CEO. On paper, my net worth was approximately $756 million. But I still drove my Honda Civic because it was reliable. I still lived in my modest 2-bedroom apartment because I was never home anyway. I still wore practical clothes because I had more important things to think about than impressing people at the grocery store. The difference was that now I also had a custom-tailored wardrobe for client meetings, a driver when I needed one, a corner office with views of the entire city, and enough wealth to buy Victoria's mansion 6 times over without financing. I didn't tell my family any of this. Initially, it was just pragmatism. I was too busy building a company to manage their questions and judgments. But as their dismissals continued, I realized something powerful. Their inability to see my success revealed everything about their values and nothing about my worth. Still at the startup? Dad would ask at the rare dinners I attended. Still there. Emily, honey, you're 31, Mom said during one particularly memorable lunch. You need to think about stability. Victoria's husband has built such a secure life for her. Marcus is on track to make partner. When are you going to get serious about your career? I was sitting across from her, having just signed a $47 million contract with one of the largest banks in the country. My company employed 212 people across 3 continents. I'd been interviewed by Forbes, featured in TechCrunch, and invited to speak at major technology conferences. I'll think about it, Mom, I said. She patted my hand sympathetically, like I was a child who needed guidance. So I stopped correcting their assumptions. I let them believe whatever narrative comforted them. It was easier than explaining, and frankly their blindness was instructive. They'd spent so long valuing appearance over substance that they couldn't recognize real achievement when it sat across from them at dinner. The breaking point came 3 weeks before Dad's 60th birthday. The message arrived in the family group chat on a Tuesday afternoon while I was in a board meeting discussing our acquisition strategy. Mom, big announcement. Dad's 60th birthday celebration is Saturday, March 18th at Riverside Country Club. Formal attire. Cocktails at 6, dinner at 7. So excited to celebrate with the family. Victoria. Can't wait. I'm wearing my new Oscar de la Renta. It's stunning. Marcus, I'll bring Cassandra. She's excited to meet everyone finally. Mom, wonderful. This will be such an elegant evening. Robert has worked so hard for our family and he deserves a celebration that reflects that. I was about to reply when another message appeared. Mom, Emily, we should talk about Saturday. My phone rang immediately. Mom, of course. I excused myself from the board meeting and stepped into the hallway. Hi, Mom. Emily, honey, about Dad's birthday. Her voice had that careful tone she used when delivering bad news disguised as reasonableness. The thing is, this is a very upscale event. Riverside Country Club has certain standards. Okay. And the guest list is mostly Dad's colleagues from the dealership, some of our closest friends, Victoria's husband's family. Very established people. I understand. The aesthetic is important, Emily. This is a milestone birthday. We've hired a photographer. There will be a video presentation. It's all very coordinated. Mom, are you uninviting me from Dad's 60th birthday? She paused. I'm suggesting that maybe it would be better if you sat this one out. Just this once. You don't really have appropriate formal wear, and I know you're not comfortable in those social settings anyway. Wouldn't you rather avoid the stress? You're uninviting me because I don't fit the aesthetic. Emily, don't be dramatic. It's just that Victoria will have her family there, all dressed beautifully. Marcus will have Cassandra, who's stunning. And you'd show up in something from a department store and the photos would it would be obvious. You understand. I stood in the hallway of my company's headquarters, occupying 3 floors of the most expensive office building in the city, and felt something shift inside me. Not hurt. Not anymore. Just clarity. I understand, Mom. Oh good. I knew you'd be reasonable about this. We'll do something special for you another time, just us. Maybe a nice dinner. I have to get back to my meeting. Bye, Mom. I hung up and returned to the boardroom where my executive team was discussing the acquisition that would change everything. Sorry about that, I said, sitting back down. Family issue. Where were we? My CFO, Richard Chin, gestured to the presentation on screen. We were reviewing the final terms for the DataCore acquisition. $2.3 billion all stock with earnout provisions that could take it to $2.7. Timeline? I asked. Announcement this Saturday. Press conference at 2 p.m., followed by immediate media availability. CNN, Bloomberg, and CNBC have all confirmed coverage. The market's been anticipating this for weeks. Saturday, March 18th. The same day as Dad's 60th birthday party at Riverside Country Club. The party I didn't fit the aesthetic for. The universe had a sense of humor. Let's do it, I said. Confirm everything. Saturday at 2 p.m., we announced that Nextech Systems is acquiring DataCore for $2.3 billion. That evening I checked the family group chat. Mom, Emily and I talked. She's going to skip Dad's birthday to avoid any stress. It's better this way. Victoria, probably for the best. More room at the table. Marcus. I stared at the thumbs-up emoji from my brother for a long moment. Then I typed a single word. Emily, okay. I didn't tell them I had other plans for Saturday. I didn't tell them that while they were posing for photos at Riverside Country Club, I'd be standing in front of national television cameras announcing the largest acquisition in my company's history. I didn't tell them anything. They'd find out soon enough. The week leading up to Dad's birthday was the busiest of my professional life. The DataCore acquisition was massive, not just in dollar amount but in strategic importance. DataCore was our biggest competitor, and acquiring them would give Nextech approximately 65% market share in AI-powered enterprise analytics. We'd essentially become the dominant player in a $10 billion industry. But acquisitions this size require meticulous preparation. Legal due diligence, regulatory approvals, stakeholder communications, employee integration planning, and most critically, the public announcement. This needs to be flawless, Richard said during one of our planning sessions. When we announce Saturday, the market will react immediately. Tech acquisitions of this size usually move the entire sector. Our communications director, Sarah Williams, was managing the media strategy. CNN wants an exclusive interview immediately after the press conference. Bloomberg wants Emily on their evening show. CNBC is doing a special segment on the acquisition's impact on the industry. Are we ready for that level of attention? I asked. Emily, you're about to announce a $2.3 billion acquisition. You're going to be the biggest story in tech news for at least a week. Maybe more, given that you're a woman CEO under 35 making one of the year's largest tech deals. This is major. I thought about my family at Riverside Country Club, worrying about whether the photographer was capturing the right angles. Concerned about the aesthetic, making sure everything looked impressive, while I was actually becoming one of the most talked about CEOs in the country. Let's make sure the presentation is perfect, I said. This is our moment. On Friday, the day before the announcement, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went shopping for the press conference. Not to a department store or a mall. I went to the same personal stylist Victoria used, the one she'd recommended I could never afford. I need a look for a press conference tomorrow, I told the stylist. National media. Needs to project authority, competence, and confidence. She sized me up professionally. What's your budget? Whatever it takes. Her eyes widened slightly. Let's find you something extraordinary. 3 hours later, I left with a custom-fitted navy suit by Armani, a silk blouse, heels from Jimmy Choo, and subtle but expensive jewelry. The total was just under $12,000. I didn't blink. That evening, I had my hair professionally styled and got a manicure. Not because I needed to impress anyone, but because when you're announcing a $2.3 billion deal on national television, presentation matters. I took a photo of myself in my apartment mirror, full suit, styled hair, confident expression, and almost sent it to the family group chat with the caption, "Found something appropriate to wear." But I didn't. They'd see soon enough. Saturday, March 18th arrived with perfect clarity. I woke up at 6 a.m., reviewed my talking points for the press conference, and ran through mock interviews with my communications team. At noon, I arrived at Nextech headquarters where we'd set up for the announcement. The conference room had been transformed into a press area. Camera crews from CNN, Bloomberg, CNBC, and a dozen other outlets. Reporters and industry analysts filling the seats. Our executive team lined up behind the podium where I'd make the announcement. At exactly 2 p.m. I walked to the podium. The room went silent. Good afternoon. I'm Emily Martinez, CEO of NextTech Systems. Today, I'm thrilled to announce that NextTech has reached a definitive agreement to acquire DataCore Analytics for $2.3 billion in an all-stock transaction. The room erupted with camera flashes and the rapid clicking of keyboards. This acquisition represents a transformational moment for enterprise data analytics, I continued. By combining NextTech's artificial intelligence capabilities with DataCore's extensive client relationships and industry expertise, we're creating the definitive platform for business intelligence in the modern era. I walked through the strategic rationale, the financial terms, the integration timeline. I was calm, clear, and confident. This was what I'd built for 7 years. This was my moment. The Q&A session was intense. Reporters fired questions about valuation, market impact, regulatory concerns, competitive positioning. I answered each one precisely, demonstrating the depth of knowledge that comes from building something from nothing. Ms. Martinez, a CNN reporter called out, "You're 31 years old and you just announced one of the largest tech acquisitions of the year. How does that feel?" I smiled. It feels like 7 years of 80-hour weeks just paid off. The room laughed. Follow up, she continued. You're one of the youngest women CEOs to complete a billion-dollar acquisition. What do you want to say to young women watching this? I thought about that question for a moment. Thought about my mother uninviting me from Dad's birthday because I didn't fit the aesthetic. Thought about my family's dismissals and assumptions. I'd say that real success isn't about looking the part, I replied. It's about building something meaningful. Don't waste energy trying to impress people who judge you by superficial metrics. Focus on creating value and eventually the results speak for themselves. More camera flashes. More questions. The press conference ran for 90 minutes. At 3:30, CNN went live with breaking news coverage. Breaking this hour. Tech CEO Emily Martinez announces stunning $2.3 billion acquisition of competitor DataCore Analytics. The 31-year-old founder and CEO of NextTech Systems is now one of the most prominent figures in enterprise software. The coverage was everywhere. Within minutes, it was the top story on CNN, Bloomberg, CNBC. My face was on every business news channel. Twitter exploded with reactions. LinkedIn crashed briefly from the traffic. My phone started buzzing incessantly. At 4 p.m., while my family was probably enjoying cocktail hour at Riverside Country Club, I was giving a live interview to CNN. Emily, this acquisition makes you one of the most successful young entrepreneurs in the country, the anchor said. Walk us through how you built NextTech from a startup to a company capable of a $2 billion acquisition. I walked her through the journey. The early days above the coffee shop, the first major client, the scaling challenges, the strategic decisions that led to dominance in our market. And you bootstrapped this initially? She asked. We raised modest angel funding early on, then venture capital as we proved the model. But the foundation was built through actual revenue and client relationships, not just funding rounds. What's your stake in the combined company? I'll own approximately 38% post-acquisition, pending regulatory approval. The anchor did quick math. Given the combined valuation, that makes you worth approximately $900 million on paper, I finished. Though I don't focus on that number. I focus on building the best product and serving our clients. At 4:30, while my family was probably sitting down to dinner, Bloomberg posted their analysis piece with the headline, How Emily Martinez Built a Billion-Dollar Empire While Silicon Valley Wasn't Watching. At 5 p.m. I checked my phone. 237 text messages. 64 missed calls. Thousands of LinkedIn connection requests. Hundreds of Twitter mentions. And finally, messages from my family. Victoria. Emily? Is this you on CNN? Marcus, what the actual fuck? Mom. Emily, please call me right now. Mom. Everyone at the party is looking at their phones. Mom. Dad's colleagues are asking about you. Mom. Why didn't you tell us? Victoria. My mother-in-law just asked why you weren't at Dad's party if you're apparently a billionaire. Marcus. Dude. You own a billion-dollar company? Victoria. The entire party is watching CNN in the bar area. Victoria. Dad looks like he's going to have a heart attack. Victoria. Emily, answer your phone. I was in the CNN green room about to do another interview when my phone rang. I answered. Emily. Her voice was shaking. What is happening? You're on CNN. They're saying you bought a company for $2 billion. There are photos of you at a press conference you look like a CEO. A real CEO. I am a real CEO, Mom. I have been for 3 years. But you said you worked at a startup. You drive a Honda. You live in an apartment. I work at a startup that's now worth over $4 billion. I drive a Honda because I like it. I live in my apartment because I'm never home. None of those things contradict being successful. Emily, everyone at your father's party is watching this. Do you understand? The entire country club stopped for this. Dad's boss saw you on the news and said, "Isn't that your daughter?" And we didn't know what to say. What did you say? I said I didn't know. I said you never told us. I didn't tell you because you never asked, Mom. You assumed I was unsuccessful because I didn't perform success the way you understood it. But Emily, this is extraordinary. You bought a company for $2 billion. $2.3 billion, actually. And you're worth approximately $900 million on paper. But that's not liquid. Most of it's equity. I could hear noise in the background, voices, commotion. Emily, Victoria wants to talk to you. So does Marcus. And Dad. Everyone wants to talk to you. Tell them I'm in the middle of media interviews. I'll call later. But Emily. Mom, I have to go. I have another live interview in 3 minutes. We'll talk soon. I hung up and returned to the CNN anchor desk for round 2. The media blitz continued through the evening. Back-to-back interviews with CNN, Bloomberg, CNBC. A phone call with the Wall Street Journal. A quick spot on the evening news. By 8 p.m. I was exhausted but energized. My phone had essentially become non-functional from the volume of messages. Dad, Emily, this is your father. I don't understand what I'm seeing on television. Please call me. Victoria, my entire social circle is texting me about you. My friends from college. My tennis group. Everyone is asking why I never mention my sister as a tech billionaire. Marcus, Emily, I'm sorry. About everything. Please call me. Unknown number. Hi Emily, this is Gerald Whitmore from Riverside Country Club. We'd love to discuss corporate membership opportunities for Next Tech Systems. Your father mentioned you might be interested. Mom, people are leaving the party early to go home and watch the news coverage of you. This is Dad's birthday party and everyone is talking about you. Victoria, do you know how humiliating this is? Having everyone at the party realize you're successful and I didn't even know? They think I'm either lying or we're not close. Both look terrible. Marcus, the partners at my firm just texted me congratulating me on your acquisition. I had to pretend I knew about it. This is so fucked up. I read through them in my hotel room. I'd checked into the Four Seasons rather than going home, knowing I'd need somewhere quiet to decompress. The acquisition announcement had gone perfectly. The media coverage was overwhelmingly positive. Nextech's stock would open Monday at record highs. But my family was spiraling. Around 9 p.m. my father called. I answered. Emily. His voice was thick. I need to understand what happened today. I announced a major acquisition. That's what happened. You're CEO of a $1 billion company. For billion actually with the acquisition. And yes, I'm the CEO. I've been CEO for 3 years and with the company for 7 years. The entire time we thought you were struggling. I wasn't struggling, Dad. I was building. There's a difference. Silence on his end. Your mother uninvited you from my birthday, he said finally. She told you that you didn't fit the aesthetic. She did. Emily, I didn't agree with that. Yes, you did, Dad. You were in the group chat. You saw the message. You didn't object. That's agreement. I should have said something. You should have. But you didn't, because somewhere in your mind, you also believed I wasn't successful enough to belong at your party. That my presence would diminish the event somehow. That's not. Dad, it's exactly that. You've spent my entire adult life dismissing my career choices. You wanted me to be like Victoria, married to someone impressive. Or like Marcus with a traditional corporate career. When I chose a different path, you decided that path was less valuable. But you built something extraordinary. I did. And I did it while you and Mom offered to help me find a real job every few months. While Victoria felt sorry for me. while Marcus' name dropped his firm like it was more impressive than what I was doing. I could hear him breathing heavily on the other end. "What do we do now?" he asked quietly. "I don't know, Dad. That's up to all of you. You spent years judging me by the wrong metrics. Now you know the truth. What you do with that information is your choice. Can you come by tomorrow? Please? Your mother is beside herself. Victoria and Marcus want to see you. We need to talk as a family. I'll come by tomorrow afternoon. But Dad, this conversation is going to be honest. Completely honest. No more pretending. No more performing. If you want a relationship with me going forward, it has to be built on who I actually am, not who you wished I was." "I understand," he said. "Tomorrow. Please." After we hung up, I ordered room service and opened my laptop. The news coverage was still going strong. Financial analysts were praising the strategic brilliance of the acquisition. Tech journalists were diving into Nextech's history and my background. Someone had already updated my Wikipedia page. Around midnight, Victoria called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. "Emily." Her voice was different, smaller, uncertain. "Can we talk?" "We are talking. I mean really talk. Not just, I need to say something." "Go ahead." "I've spent the last 6 hours watching you on television being interviewed by major news anchors, explaining this massive business deal. And the entire time I kept thinking about how I've treated you. How I've talked about you to my friends. How I felt sorry for you. And I was so wrong. About everything. I thought I was successful because I married well and have a nice house. But you actually built something. You're actually successful in a way I never even considered. Victoria, your life is your life. I'm not judging your choices. But I judged yours. For years. I thought you were wasting your potential. I told people you were still figuring things out, in a tone that implied you were failing. And the entire time, you were running a billion-dollar company. For billion now. See? I can't even comprehend that. For $1 billion. Emily, I don't even know who you are. I'm the same person I've always been. I just had success you couldn't recognize because it didn't look like the success you were taught to value." She was quiet for a long moment. "Can I see you tomorrow? When you come to see Dad?" "If you want." "I do. And Emily, congratulations. On the acquisition. On everything you've built. You deserve all of it." It was the first genuine thing she'd said to me in years. Sunday afternoon, I drove to my parents' house in my Honda Civic. I could have called my driver. I could have arrived in the Tesla I'd bought last month but rarely drove. But I wanted them to see that I was still me, just the me they'd failed to actually see for 7 years. The house looked the same. The leased Mercedes in the driveway. The perfectly manicured lawn. The performance of success that had defined my childhood. But when I walked in, everything was different. Mom hugged me and started crying immediately. Dad couldn't quite meet my eyes. Victoria sat on the couch looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Marcus stood awkwardly by the window. "I recorded all your interviews," Mom said, gesturing to the TV where she'd apparently spent the morning watching replays. "You were so poised. So professional. You looked like a CEO?" I finished. "Like someone I didn't know." We sat down in the living room, the formal one they usually reserved for important guests. Apparently, I'd become an important guest. "I think we owe you an apology," Dad said carefully. "Actually, I know we do. We've spent years underestimating you, dismissing your career, making assumptions about your life. And we were wrong about all of it." "You were," I agreed. "But why? Why did you assume I was failing?" "Because you didn't look successful," Mom said quietly. "You drove an old car. You lived in a small apartment. You wore normal clothes. Success is supposed to look like Victoria's house. Like Marcus's job title. Like the things we can see and understand. But success isn't a performance, Mom. It's substance. And you valued the performance over the substance for so long that you couldn't see what I was actually building." Victoria spoke up. "I need to understand something. Why didn't you tell us? You could have explained what you were doing. Helped us understand. Would you have believed me? If 3 years ago I'd told you I was building a company that would be worth billions, would you have taken me seriously? Or would you have thought I was delusional?" She looked down. "Honestly, I probably would have thought you were exaggerating. That you were calling yourself CEO of some tiny startup to make yourself feel better. Exactly. You wouldn't have believed me because my success didn't look like success to you. So I stopped trying to make you see it. I focused on the work instead. Marcus finally spoke. I spent last night looking up Next.The. Reading articles about your company, your clients, your growth. Emily, you built something incredible. And I made fun of it. At family dinners, I joke about your startup hobby, like it was a phase you'd grow out of. You did. I'm sorry. I was an asshole. I was so focused on my own career progression that I couldn't see that you were lapping all of us. This isn't about comparison, I said. You all have lives you chose. That's fine. The problem was that you judged my choices, dismissed my path, and then excluded me when you decided I didn't meet your standards. The birthday party, Dad said. Emily, I should have said something when your mother suggested you not come. But I was worried about what my colleagues would think. What they'd say. Whether you'd reflect well on me. And now I realize that you're the most successful person in this family, and I almost didn't have you at my 60th birthday because I cared more about appearances than about having my daughter there. Mom started crying again. Emily, can you forgive us? Please. I looked around the room at my family, all of them looking ashamed, uncertain, and for the first time seeing me clearly. I can forgive you, I said slowly. But I need you to understand that forgiveness doesn't mean everything goes back to how it was. Our relationships have to be rebuilt on different terms. What terms? Victoria asked. Honesty. Respect. No more assumptions about my life. No more judgment based on appearance. No more conditional acceptance based on whether I impress the right people. Can you do that? They all nodded. And one more thing, I added. I need you to understand that I didn't build Next.The to prove anything to you. I built it because I love the work. Because I believed in the vision. Because I wanted to create something meaningful. Your approval was never the goal. But you have it, Dad said. You have my approval. My respect. My pride. I'm sorry it took a CNN broadcast for me to see what was right in front of me. Over the next few hours we talked, really talked, for the first time in years. They asked real questions about my work. I shared stories about the challenges and triumphs of building a company. We addressed years of hurt and misunderstanding. It wasn't perfect. Years of damage couldn't be fixed in one conversation. But it was a start. As I was leaving, Mom pulled me aside. That outfit you wore at the press conference, she said. It was stunning. Where did you get it? The same stylist Victoria uses. The one you both said I couldn't afford. She winced. Emily, Mom, it's okay. I'm not angry anymore. But I need you to understand that I could have afforded that stylist for the past 3 years. I just didn't need to prove anything to you by dressing that way every day. I wore what was comfortable for me until I needed to dress for cameras. That was my choice, not a limitation. She nodded slowly, understanding finally dawning. 3 months later, the DataCore acquisition closed successfully. Next.The's combined valuation reached $4.7 billion. I was featured on the cover of Forbes with the headline, The Quiet Billionaire, How Emily Martinez Built an Empire While Her Family Thought She Was Broke. My relationship with my family continued to improve slowly. Dad started forwarding me articles about technology trends with genuine interest. Mom stopped offering career advice and started asking how she could support my work. Victoria and I had lunch monthly, building an actual sisterly relationship. Marcus referred several corporate clients to Next.The. But the biggest change was in me. I'd spent years building something extraordinary while feeling like I had to hide it from the people who should have been my biggest supporters. Now I understood that their inability to see my success was never about me. It was about their limited understanding of what success could look like. At a family dinner 6 months after the acquisition, Dad raised his glass. A toast, he said. To Emily, who taught us that real success doesn't need to announce itself. It just needs to be built. And to family, I added, that's willing to see each other clearly, even when it challenges everything they thought they knew. We clinked glasses, and for the first time in my adult life, I felt truly seen by the people who'd raised me. Not because I'd proven them wrong in some dramatic confrontation, but because truth had revealed itself in its own time, forcing them to confront their values and their blindness. That Saturday at Dad's 60th birthday, while they'd posed for photos at Riverside Country Club, I'd been announcing a $2.3 billion acquisition on national television. I didn't fit their aesthetic. I fit reality. And in the end, reality always wins.